Well, Santoria asked me about this word poses, and indeed it is dzua, which has the sense of deception. Poses, I think, is a pretty good word.
Yes, that word was in the poem itself, right?
Yes, the word was in the poem, and the person who's glossing it is Kunjo who glosses it as dawning. He doesn't gloss it with a word that has a sense of deception. And he glosses it with dawn, charwa. And His Holiness also doesn't gloss it. That he glosses it as charwa. But I see no reason to not. I see no reason to merely to take the Tibetan word zua totally away from deceptive. And thus I'm using the word poses. But of course, pose doesn't mean just for a camera, but poses in many different ways. So my finger last time happened to land on the right word, pose, zua, into it. Just to point that out. And His Holiness emphasizes that this inexpressible mother or mama, not established as anything, this emptiness of inherent existence manifests or poses. He takes it as existing in the omniscient. It manifests in manifold ways. It manifests in a Buddha who's extinguished, I'm in the middle of the paragraph, who has extinguished all defects and who's endowed with all good qualities. And it exists in the worst of all beings, who has accumulated, maybe better than the word great ill deed would be, a huge ill deed, such as drawing, what is it? Is it the 5 great ill deeds?
Yes.
5?
5 heinous actions.
Yeah, 5 heinous. Okay, cool. So huge ill deed. Why not use a better word? So I'll change it to huge, so that the great could mean wonderful, marvelous, marvelous ill deed. Heinous, yeah. But the word is just big. Drawing blood from the body of Buddha, etc. So resulting in a most tortuous hell. What kind of murder is it? Murdering one's parents?
Yes, or an arhat.
Yes, arhat. That gets us up to 3. What are the
Mom
other
and dad
2?
are separated out. So it's killing your mother, your father, your arhat, the arhat, killing, causing schism in the sangha,
Uh-huh.
and drawing blood from a Buddha.
So, having been born in the most tortuous hell, I forget the qualities of a most torturous hell. Is that where one's body has been blended into the molten hot iron, or is it worse than that? So that your body is indistinguishable from the molten hot iron? So I don't mind imagining those. A lot of people say to lamas when they come to the so-called West, oh, don't talk about those things. It really bothers people. Oh, good. 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 Talk about them. Because that's where our imaginations, why do we black out and don't remember our dreams? Because they're too terrible to remember. Why do we black out? So that's going from, you see, not just the whole of cyclic existence, but the whole of all the good, the really good. So you see, emptiness is the ground, the basis for all appearances, all the poses. Now, Gung-thang Kön-chog-tan-pay-drön-me was talking about all the lies, and he paid attention. He bothered, at the beginning of his commentary to make sure that we knew what the word lie meant. Now, why was he using the word lie? Because these appearances appear one way and exist, appear one way and exist another way. Appear to inherently exist, but don't exist that way. As Buddha said, all composite things are deceptive. In some, going on to the next sentence, so it said at the end of the last sentence, dawned from the sphere of this emptiness of inherent existence. Sounds like Hinduism, doesn't it? Some Hindu. In some, the varieties of phenomena have this nature of natural quiescence. Wow. I've mentioned previously that south of Charlottesville was a big Hindu temple, and the guru wanted to debate me, so he invited me there, and he spoke about, those beings who didn't want to pay attention to their deeper nature, and I would frame it as without compassion, he said, and we can watch them burn, which upset me a little bit, but I didn't say anything. And since they have this nature, a nature of natural quiescence, they dawn, so to speak. I wonder what I was translating in so to speak. Probably in Tibetan, tabu. From this nature. You see, this language of dawning is being used. It's almost like we can't quite say it, but we are saying it. They are the sport, lila in Sanskrit, the sport of this nature. You know, we might like to say, well, are we going to blame emptiness? If you remember from our brief study of Nyingma, they are the manifestations of this nature. They are the display of this nature. Therefore, this nature, this emptiness of inherent existence, and I got rid of the comma, poses, well, you saw that, poses in all sorts of ways. See, we don't want to get rid of the word poses just because it's glossed as dawns. Then skipping down, so notice in the, actually not skipping down, the inexpressible mother, I think you can find my place here, a few lines down in what I was going to skip. That is the non-establishment of anything ultimately. When you search for it, you're not going to find it. When you search for it in these, what is the word in English? In these, I've almost got the word. Maybe I'll take a sip of coffee. It's almost like profane. In these simple-ass ways. Is it this? Is it that? Is it, what's the word? Simple-ass. Something
Yeah, you got it, Jeffrey.
What?
I think you found the right word.
Yeah, okay, in these simple-ass ways. Yeah. Really, in these simple-ass ways, like a kid, you know, asking you. I in the monastery back in 1963, one of the fellows there was Chris George. I think there's a rock drummer even, but by that name, but he's not that. He had left Yale and was a buddy of Bob Thurman's. And Chris was there for 6 months, and he said his younger brother in the family, one of those nice cars from Europe. What's the nice car from Europe? That
Alfa Romeo.
no, not that nice. You know, it's sort of typical. What?
Porsche.
No, typical.
Volkswagen.
No,
Volvo.
BMW.
yeah, BMW. A little bit the other one. Mercedes. So he was rather, he's a good deal younger than Chris. He said, how many parts do you have to take away from a Mercedes before it's no longer a Mercedes? You know, he's a little kid. His brother was a little kid, right? I don't know if the parents said, shut up. So the word, it says ultimately, in the face of an ultimate consciousness. Right. Then, next paragraph. Regarding the timing, when, of the mutually supportive ascertainment, right? This is one of our questions. Kuji Omo dismisses as uninformed guesswork. That's putting it into my English. The opinion that analysis of the view of emptiness of the arising is complete. When you find the view of emptiness, that means when you get inference. For the first time, when you put it together. And then, of course, if you forget it, when you put it together again, when you get it again, then you got it. And he says, it's not then. That's not enough. So then you understand. Somebody says, when emptiness dawns thus as the meaning of dependent arising, analysis of the view is complete. He said, it's even said. Some dummy says this. So later he makes it, right? He says it's random guesswork. Well, uninformed guesswork, right? I didn't add anything to that. Okay. And then afterwards, I added more than the initial inference. Well, instead of an initial, well, what should I say? Initial inference. That's not enough. I guess that's why I said inference. Maybe I don't need to say, maybe it's better when I said inference instead of initial, because you can forget your inference. Do you think it helps to say the initial? Because actually it's wrong, because you can forget the initial one, and then you have to have another one.
But if you just say inference, it implies that you need direct perception for the view.
Yeah.
And that's not.
Yeah, you've got why I said it. Yeah. Right. More than the initial. Okay, let's keep it. Speaking about where you're right on, you questioned the word Shakpa. What's my translation for Shakpa that you questioned?
Posit?
Posit. Yeah. Often in English, we say, let's posit, and that's like, let's play around. Let's posit that that it snows tomorrow, that we have a huge snowstorm tomorrow, and we get snowed in and we don't have any electricity and blah blah blah, and we know that's not going to happen. It's sort of like, let's play around, let's pretend. That's one of the meanings of posit, and that maybe even is a dominant meaning in English, and why my using posit so much is so uncomfortable. And in Tibetan, there is also posit by valid cognition. And that obviously is not flimsy, is not a flimsy meaning, is not a flimsy play around, or even a serious play around. And I don't mind starting to use an English term, and then by using it, develop meaning within this context, within the context of this body of literature, even though it's different from the usual context in English, if I cannot come up with anything better. So that, after quite some time, is my response to your question. And I would add further, it would be very helpful if you could come up with something better. And I could see why in more colloquial books, or books where, or for instance, in the more colloquial books that I've translated for His Holiness, I don't know if I've used the word posit, but I probably didn't. I probably, if I had my senses about me, I probably avoided it. But in these technical books, I don't, where I want to have a word, an English word for every Tibetan word, I haven't seen any way to avoid it.
In the dictionary, posit can also mean establish. So that fits in with posited by reliable confidence.
And we've got, other Tibetan words for that use establish. So I can't use that here. And if I was, doing an oral translation, I don't mind using the same word many times, because I don't want to throw people off. So your questioning that has been helpful. That translation term has been helpful. But I ain't changing until, and I, thought it out a long time ago that in books of philosophy, you end up, all writers end up building a context. Although it would be helpful if I explained myself in some sort of dictionary of terms. Would there be world enough in time? But who knows, I might just do it. Then, Gung-thang Kön-chog-tan-pay-drön-me. I took out the word pregnant. It came from a literature course in a particular professor. And I wasn't sure if it's such a good word nowadays. Pregnancy can mean many things. Pregnant indicates whole lot of things. Now, you'll notice in this first paragraph, Gung-thang Kön-chog-tan-pay-drön-me, who's extremely highly respected for his analytical abilities, even by non-Gelugpas. And even when people don't want to agree with him, people bow to his analytical ability, even if they might not like something that he says. He uses the term bestows understanding to get around words like implicit, implies, implies. As Geltop, we've got to avoid that word. And you notice at the end of this first paragraph, he says, in the perspective of the awareness of a proponent of the middle who knows the absence of inherent existence. It means you already have inference. And up above, sort of a few lines in, 3 or 4 lines in, he says, suggests by import. Suggests by import. And the Tibetan word is projects by import. I use suggests by import, but it's more an arrow projects. You project the arrow. When you pull the string and let it go, this word pangba is project. You project the arrow forward. And it's and I'm trying to stick to even though I use suggests, I'm in the note trying to be more literal than suggests. And maybe I should have just stuck with projects by import. But I thought projects is a bit too hard. Now, in the next paragraph, he's complaining about Yangchen Gaoi-lotra, who's one of the biggies. His attempt to explain this. He says, he's really saying Yangchen Gaoi-lotra is completely wrong. Which is, Yangchen Gaoi-lotra is something, we would automatically think, but Gung-thang is saying, this guy's out to lunch. I guess out to lunch means he's just he so much wanted to eat some food, he got distracted by by eating. and forgot to think, forgot to reflect on the meaning. Yangzhe Gao-lotra, as great as he is, went out for a snack when he should have been reflecting on the meaning. And took it as like the seeing dependent arisings or dawning as like illusions and subsequent attainment. And in the middle of the paragraph he says, this does not contain a way of simultaneously avoiding the two extremes. And wow, and then he really slaps the shit out of him and says, and even autonomous assert merely this. Oh, wow.